A weight loss clinic can collect $349 from a patient every month, deliver most of the experience through a screen, and never touch the medicine. That sounds like an almost perfect business. But the $349 is not profit. Before the owner sees it, an ad platform may take the first cut, then a clinician, then a lab, then a pharmacy and a shipping partner, then the payment processor, the refund desk, the insurance carrier, and the lawyer who explains why the business model that worked during a drug shortage may not work after it. So the real question is not whether GLP-1 drugs are popular. They are. The question is whether the clinic owns a durable healthcare relationship, or whether it is renting customers to resell access to a product it does not make, cannot freely copy, and may soon be able to offer only at the same price as everyone else. To find out, we are going to follow one illustrative American clinic from the first ad click to the owner's bank account. And at the end, we will calculate 3 outcomes: a weak clinic, a solid base case, and a strong operator. First, define the business. This is not a pharmaceutical factory. It is not a gym. And it is not a national telehealth company with millions of subscribers. Our unit is one cash-pay hybrid clinic, a small physical office, online intake, telehealth follow-ups, licensed clinicians, and outside licensed pharmacies. The clinic owns the brand, the patient funnel, the software, the care workflow, and the recurring relationship. It does not own the molecule. It does not manufacture the drug. And in the brand name model, it usually does not own the pharmacy sale. That distinction creates 2 very different revenue lanes. In lane 1, the clinic prescribes an FDA-approved brand when medically appropriate. The patient buys that medication from a pharmacy. The clinic earns a consultation fee or monthly care fee for evaluation, monitoring, prior authorization help, coaching, and follow-up. In lane 2, a patient receives a lawfully compounded medication for a documented, patient-specific clinical need. The clinic may sell an all-inclusive program and pay an outside pharmacy and fulfillment partner from that monthly price. Lane 2 can show a much larger visible spread. It also carries the biggest legal and commercial question in the entire business. Before a clinic can renew a patient, it has to acquire one. The ads are everywhere because the potential audience is enormous. Gallup reported that 11% of American adults were currently using GLP-1 medications for weight loss in 2006, up from 3% in 2004. Awareness reached 91%. But high awareness does not mean cheap customers. A person searching for a prescription can compare a local clinic, a national telehealth platform, a primary care doctor, a manufacturer direct channel, and dozens of offers that look almost identical on a phone. One marketing agency claims an enrolled weight loss patient can cost between $400. Another healthcare marketing benchmark puts the median around $241 for a first prescription. Those are industry references, not audited universal facts. So our model uses explicit assumptions: $450 to acquire a paid start in the weak case, $275 in the base case, and $220 for the strong operator with better referrals, local reputation, and conversion. The funnel begins with impressions, clicks, and leads. Then comes a quiz, an eligibility screen, a booked consultation, a completed consultation, clinical approval, and finally, a payment that does not get refunded. Every step leaks. Cheap leads can be unqualified. Qualified leads can miss the appointment. Patients can discover that the advertised price excludes medication. Others can be medically ineligible, decline the plan, fail to complete labs, or learn that insurance will not cover the product they expected. This is why the first consultation is rarely the real profit center. Its job is to convert acquisition spend into a recurring patient without turning medical judgment into a sales quota. Once a patient starts, the economics become much more attractive. A monthly fee can cover clinician review, messages, dose decisions, side effect support, insurance paperwork, lifestyle coaching, and refills. Public pricing shows the range. RO lists an ongoing monthly membership of $149, with medication billed separately. Our base clinic uses that same $149 as an editorial assumption for the brand prescription care fee. For a patient-specific compounded program, the base assumption is $349 per month, including the outside pharmacy and fulfillment path. At first glance, the compounded lane looks spectacular. If the assumed pharmacy and fulfillment cost is $165, the visible spread is $184. But that $184 still has to pay for clinical labor, labs, support, refunds, processing, acquisition, software, rent, insurance, and compliance. And the $165 is not a public fact. Pharmacy contracts are private. We label it what it is, an editorial assumption that must be stress-tested. The strongest clinics do not simply bill every 30 days. They create a reason for the patient to stay. Prompt answers, appropriate monitoring, nutrition and strength guidance, careful dose decisions, and a maintenance plan that can improve both care and retention. The dangerous version reverses the incentives. It treats the prescription as the product, clinical review as friction, and cancellation as a defect in the customer rather than a signal about price, side effects, or service. Telehealth removes a waiting room. It does not remove the practice of medicine. Someone must review the medical history, contraindications, current medication, weight trajectory, side effects, and whether a prescription is appropriate. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported 2025 mean wages of roughly $66 an hour for nurse practitioners, $68 for physician assistants, and $49 for registered nurses. A clinic pays more than the wage. Add payroll taxes, benefits, malpractice coverage, supervision where required, recruiting, licensing, documentation, and time that cannot be perfectly scheduled. Our base model assumes scene of clinical cost per active member each month, plus $55 for every new start. This reflects a mix of asynchronous review, scheduled visits, and pooled clinical capacity. It is an assumption, not a promise, that safe care can always be delivered for that amount. A high-volume clinic can lower the cost per member by standardizing intake and using asynchronous workflows. But there is a floor. If a provider is paid to approve as many people as possible, if side effect messages wait for days, or if a complex patient receives the same workflow as everyone else, operational efficiency becomes medical risk. The next costs are easy to hide because they may sit outside the advertised membership. A baseline evaluation may include metabolic, kidney, liver, glucose, lipid, or thyroid information depending on the patient's history and the clinician's judgment. Quest publicly lists one consumer baseline weight loss panel at $139, plus a $6 physician service fee. A clinic may negotiate a different rate. It may accept recent labs. It may bill the patient separately, or it may include testing in the program. Our model averages lab cost across the active population, $5 per member per month in the weak case, $7 in the base case, and $8 in the strong case, where more structured monitoring is included. Then comes the pharmacy. For a brand prescription, the patient's medication purchase generally stays outside clinic revenue. In 2026, official self-pay programs advertised Zepbound starting at $299 a month, with common continuation offers around $3 to $4. Wegovy self-pay offers ranged roughly from $149 to $3 depending on form, dose, and program terms. Those lower official prices are good for access. They are also a direct attack on the clinic's ability to charge a premium merely for cheaper medication. For compounded medication, the pharmacy must prepare, test, label, and dispense the patient-specific product, while fulfillment adds packaging, shipping, temperature control where needed, tracking, and replacement risk. The clinic that advertises one price and reveals those costs after the card is captured may convert the first sale. It may also create the next refund. Recurring revenue sounds permanent. It is not. KFF found that among people who had ever used a GLP-1, cost and side effects were two common reasons for stopping. Medication persistence studies also show a wide range. One 2026 claims study found only 24.5% persistence at 12 months. Another recent analysis reported 60.9% among newer initiators. Those are not clinic churn rates, but they tell us that retention cannot be assumed. Our week clinic loses 12% of active members each month. At 180 members, it must acquire about 22 paid starts every month just to stand still. The base clinic loses 7%. At 450 members, it needs about 32 replacement starts. The strong clinic loses 4%. Even at 850 members, it needs only 34. That is the hidden power of retention. The strong clinic is almost twice the size of the base clinic, yet it buys only 2 more replacement patients per month. Refunds make the leak worse. Our assumptions are 3% of revenue in the weak case, 2% in the base case, and 1% in the strong case. Card processing takes another assumed 3.2%, and processing fees may not be returned when a payment is refunded. The business gets most dangerous when marketing, billing, and clinical operations all push in the same direction. In 2025, the Federal Trade Commission alleged that NextMed advertised memberships commonly at $138 or $180 without adequately disclosing the cost of the medication, required labs, or the medical consultation. The FTC also alleged problems involving annual commitments, cancellation and refund delays, reviews, testimonials, and weight loss claims. Those are allegations in a specific enforcement matter, not a description of every clinic. But they reveal the exact temptation built into this model. Show the lowest number, collect the card, and let operational friction protect recurring revenue. That can turn customer service understaffing into a regulatory liability. Medical ethics adds another constraint. The appropriate product, dose, testing, and follow-up should be determined by clinical need, not by which lane gives the owner the largest spread. A clinic should not promise a prescription before evaluation. It should not present compounded medication as FDA approved, as a generic, or as proven identical to an approved product. And it should not use dramatic before and after claims, as if every patient will receive the same outcome. During national shortages, compounders played an important role in access. But the legal environment changed. FDA determined the tirzepatide injection shortage resolved in December 2024, and the semaglutide injection shortage resolved in February 2025. The related shortage-based enforcement discretion windows ended in 2025. That does not mean all compounding is banned. Patient-specific compounding can still be possible when legal requirements are met, including a prescriber's documented determination that a change produces a significant difference for an identified patient. What it does mean is that a clinic cannot safely build a national mass-market business on the assumption that adding a vitamin, changing a dose, or calling the product personalized automatically makes a copy lawful. FDA has also warned telehealth companies about marketing that implies compounded products are FDA-approved, generic, the same as an approved drug or clinically proven equivalent. In March 2026, FDA announced warning letters to 30 telehealth companies over allegedly false or misleading compounded GLP-1 promotion. Then there are the states. Telehealth is not a borderless software product. The clinician generally must comply with the rules where the patient is located. California requires a California licensed physician for patients located there and applies the same standard of care as in-person medicine. California also restricts non-physician ownership and control of medical practice. Florida offers a separate out-of-state telehealth registration route with conditions. Multiply licensing, professional entities, medical directors, malpractice coverage, pharmacy rules, privacy, consent, and fee-splitting questions across states, and nationwide stops being a marketing toggle. It becomes an operating cost. Now run the cash waterfall. Every financial number from this point is an editorial assumption in a reproducible model, not an industry average. The weak clinic has on active members. Most use brand prescriptions and pay the clinic a $109 care fee. It has high churn, a $450 acquisition cost, weak refund control, and $12,500 of monthly fixed overhead. It produces about $27,300 in monthly revenue. After refunds, processing, pharmacy, clinical labor, labs, support, acquisition, and overhead, it loses about $8,700 a month before replacing the owner's labor. After valuing the owner's job and debt service, residual owner cash is negative about $224,000 a year. The clinic is not a side hustle. It is an expensive job subsidized by the owner. The base clinic has 450 active members, 55% on the brand service lane and 45% in patient-specific compounded programs where lawful. It charges $149 for brand care and $349 for the all-inclusive compounded program. Monthly revenue is about $110,000. Pharmacy and fulfillment take about $33,400. Clinical labor takes $9,400. Labs and support take $7,200. Acquisition consumes about $8,700. Refunds, processing, and $20,000 of fixed overhead take the rest down to roughly $25,700 of monthly operating profit. Now, separate ownership from employment. We assign $12,000 a month to replace the owner's management labor, $2,000 to debt service, and an illustrative tax provision. Residual owner cash is about $103,000 a year. Add the value of the owner's actual job, and total annual cash reaching the owner is about $247,000. The strong clinic has 850 members, 4% monthly churn, better acquisition, fewer refunds, and more efficient support. It generates about $223,500 a month and $74,200 of operating profit. After $16,000 a month for owner replacement labor, debt, and an illustrative tax provision, residual owner cash is about $464,000 a year. Including compensation for the owner's job, total cash reaches roughly $656,000. That is an excellent business. It is also not $1 million of effortless profit from a laptop. Finally, remove the compounded lane from the base clinic. If all 450 members move to brand prescriptions and the clinic can defend a $149 monthly care fee, residual owner cash falls from about $103,000 to about $59,000 a year. The clinic survives because it is still selling real care. But if official brand prices keep falling, national platforms bundle more support, and competition pushes the clinic's care fee down to nose, the same operation produces a small operating loss before the owner's labor. Residual owner cash becomes negative by roughly $175,000 a year. That is the real post-shortage risk. The pharmacy spread can disappear at the same moment the service becomes harder to differentiate. So, how does a GLP-1 weight loss clinic make money? It buys a qualified patient once, earns recurring care revenue, sometimes earns a spread on a lawful patient-specific compounded program, and tries to retain the patient long enough for lifetime contribution to exceed acquisition and overhead. How much does the owner keep? In our transparent model, nothing in the weak case, about $103,000 a year of residual cash in the base case, and about $464,000 in the strong case, after replacing the owner's labor, servicing debt, and setting aside an illustrative tax provision. The moat is not access to a popular molecule. The moat is trusted acquisition, defensible clinical care, low churn, transparent billing, compliant pharmacy relationships, and a service patients will still pay for when the drug itself is cheaper and easier to find. If the clinic owns that relationship, the subscription can be valuable. If it only owns a landing page between an ad and a pharmacy, the owner may discover that the biggest weight loss in the business is the margin.